Hello, welcome back to Oracle DBA tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about Oracle processes. So, this was the diagram that we draw in the very first class of our Oracle DBA tutorial. That Oracle server is consist of processes and system global area or a memory structure and file system. So we have already dealt with the file system. We learned what are different types of files that we need, and then we in the last couple of videos we discussed about the memory structure, like how this memory structure is divided into multiple area or multiple pools. And in this video we are going to talk about database processes. So here is another diagram where whenever a client C1 connects to the Oracle database server, for client C1 in a dedicated server process mode, Oracle creates a dedicated server, and that dedicated server is going to be represent the client C1 whenever any request come from the client. And so essentially we have, this is a different type of process, and these are different type of processes which are running at the startup of your database. So essentially what happens is the Oracle processes are divided into three types. Oracle, okay. So the first one is your server processes, and the second one is your background processes, and the last category is your something called, so last category is your slave processes. So let's discuss about each of them in detail. So server process is something that is when a client connects, this server process is going to start. And so basically for in a dedicated server process mode, there is the one-to-one mapping. That means each client will have their own dedicated server to represent them. That means when the client is going to submit a query, then dedicated server process is going to execute that query on behalf of the client. And basically this is going to start when we need. Okay, it's not like the multiple processes are there and then your client comes and all this thing. So basically the first point is they represent client, and these processes basically execute the commands on behalf of client. Okay, and these are basically we also call these are the workhorse process, which does all these things on behalf of a client. And then we look at the database background processes. In background processes, what we have is that these processes started at the starting time of database, started at DB startup. Okay, so these are called background processes. That means they are going to do couple of common tasks. Like for example, whenever a buffer cache is completely filled and then or something happened, then we need to Oracle needs to write the buffer cache to the disk, and that in that case there is a background process called DB writer. So DB writer is going to kick up and going to write the buffer cache to the file. So when DB writer is going to write those buffer cache may be changed by multiple different server processes. So basically that's why I'm saying these are the common processes which is going to do a common set of tasks. So do set of predefined tasks. Okay, so this is like one example is your DB writer or log writer and so on. And there is a third kind of processes which basically slave to either server processes or background processes. Basically, slave processes are they work for either server process or the background process, right? So for example, whenever DB writer writes, so it may just give to a slave process, and that slave process is going to basically write the file IO and all this thing. Okay, so this is for the slave processes. And what I can show you right now, I can show you these processes on my machine. And in the next couple of videos we are going to discuss in detail about what are kind of background processes and detail about the server processes and the slave processes. So let's go to like the okay. So this is my machine where I have a Oracle server is running, and my Oracle instance SID is XE. So therefore if I do ps minus ef and then I grep XE. So these are the processes. Okay, so these are the processes what we have talked about. And then this pmon and all this thing, this for example, this is db writer, dbw, and this is my log writer, and this is my checkpoint, and then smon and all other things. So and then these are the slave processes, that xe underscore x s000 s001 002. And then at the end I have, these are my server processes. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. And then looks like I have a bunch of clients connected at this moment, and therefore I have a bunch of server processes running. Okay, so these are the processes, and then we are going to discuss about their roles, and then how basically how they work with the memory structure and file system, so that we'll complete the database server architecture at the end of this processes videos. Okay, and then one thing to remember, if so basically the processes will be starting with xe or ending with xe, depending. So why it xe? Because that is the SID of my database. Okay, so that was SID of my database, and then what Oracle gives, creates a response of a process with xe as a process name.